Any questions? Ruth, I'll let you go first.
Yes, you brought up that tent rocks is now under the coverage of the EMS and fire service. Do they contribute any funding? I don't know if their designation, either federal or national.
Well,
They would be
national park, no.
And why not?
Separate pots of money. The federal funding is designated specifically for what it can be used for. A park grant would not include that.
How we make money on a rescue at Tent Rocks is the billing of the ambulance. So we are reimbursed, but Tent Rocks doesn't pay us.
And there's no other charge that you can charge for that?
No, because we're rescuing a person, we're not rescuing a
Well,
car.
yeah, I know that, but providing that service and somehow be reimbursed for.
We are,
But you're
when we bill
focused-
for the services that we provide to the person. We are billed for, we bill for that, and those are our expenses.
But Ruth, you're focused in the right area, because one of the things we've discussed and we went and looked at was, okay, so you send a bill out, well, what percentage of those do you actually collect? And I was kind of surprised, the rate we're at right now is about 18%. Okay, and it's kind of bad. So right now, John's been working, there's several areas he's working. I feel of all the areas that
First of all,
have-
we don't do the collections.
Right.
The volunteers do not do the collections. We hire a company to do
And we're-
the billing and collections.
But what John's doing is he's found another company that on average has a higher collection rate. So we're gonna go over to them to see if we can improve it there. John is also
We've already
active.
gone overspend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John's also working with Sandoval County, and tentatively, we've got a $5K increase this year and perhaps another increase next year. And as was mentioned, we have a reciprocity agreement that is, should be in this area and it's more like this. Well, John's negotiating with them to either come up with a better way to compensate us for our over coverage or reduce our expenses by not providing some of that coverage. So one way or the other, it's not going to be as big a drain as it was over in that area. So that's one of the things John's is doing real actively, is not just looking for ways we can optimize the cost and reduce expenses, but what can we do to make this, ensure this is a self-funding organization going forward. And
just something else like that. If we do not have funding for this town, we do not have a town.
yeah,
That's one of the big things that people fail to realize. They do. It's like, okay, I'm not going to pay my taxes because I don't like the idea. Well, that's fine, but we fund services all over this town. EMS, fire department, having someone like Gene come in and, pick up all the brush. I think we need to kind of look at that and say, do we want to do this without enough funding?
well, on a personal note, the EMS and fire, it hits home with me simply because I'm here right now. And if we were to create a situation where this was consolidated outside our community to Peña Blanca, and those response times go up, inevitably someone may die because of a slow response. And that's personally, that's not something I can live with, knowing that I was a party to creating that situation. So we were going to do what we have to do to make sure that we maintain that here in this community.
Because you're old.
That's right. Like I say, I want to professionally show up in a real quick amount of time.
Do you guys know what the average age of a Cochiti-Lake resident is?
Let me guess.
No.
I can't guess that.
160.
62. Yeah, 62. Yeah. Rick.
So long.
Where's all the youngsters? I ain't knowing any of them. Are they all working or something?
They're all working, yeah.
So I just have a couple of comments. First of all, I gotta say that, I think that anyone looking forward can see that the town taxes need to be raised. What would be helpful coming into a meeting would be to look at a comparison of what they are currently are, like just a sample. And because rather than whipping out my calculator, I don't have my current
I
assessment.
can run it by you real quick if you want me to.
That'd be great.
If you look at the 17 cents tax rate that we had and compare it against the old assessments, which were 31 million.
About 31
Yeah.
million was the total
The
assessment.
reassessment dropped it down to 28 million. All right? So what that means is you're going to lose tax revenue at 17 cents. You will not collect what you collected the year before.
Right.
If you raise that tax rate to 19 cents, you're right about even almost. You're a little under, I think.
Yeah,
But
almost.
you're proposing to raise it to
To 23,
23%.
yes.
Right.
We, on the last time we went through the budget, and Dolly can check me if I'm wrong, we almost did it last year. We came close. But we thought, okay, let's just see how everything goes. And it didn't go well at all. So, rather than try to just nip and tuck it and get kind of where we're gonna be, that would take you 21 would probably help. 23 is probably a more reasonable number for everybody. You really want to balance this sucker, you're looking at 28, 29, 30.
And,
You're
and
I'm just trying to figure out what
Well,
it
it's-
actually means to
you
me in
can't,
terms
you
of
can't
dollars.
tell unless you look at yours
Yeah.
specifically. You
Right.
can come,
I
if
mean,
you
just-
wanna come in the office, I'll show you,
Yeah.
but it's all over the board. We tried to look
Right.
at some kind of a trend analysis to see, okay, are most people going down, are most people going, what's happening?
The
Or is it
reduction,
only the most expensive going down? No, it is all over the map. It is crazy.
because one of my worries, the reason I had her do that, and I kind of felt bad for making her do that afterwards, because I had done a little at home and realized, oh God, this is everywhere.
Like 5
Was,
hours.
my worry was if your house went up and your taxes went up, you're taking a double hit. I didn't like doing that.
Did
There
people's
is-
valuations really go up though with this?
Some did.
Some actually did, believe
Really?
it or not.
Some did.
Yeah, mine went up like
Mine stayed
$2,000,
flat.
I think, in value.
And so that's what you're looking at, is we're using that valuation.
Yeah.
But yes, some people went up. I mean, it's just, and some people went way down, and some
But the community as a whole.
went down.
And that's kind of where you
That's
start. The
normal.
averages, we went down 10%. So you
Yeah.
assume the average house went down 10%. Just assuming. not
The average
saying-
house did, but individual houses might go up.
Exactly.
more
And that's,
somewhat down.
that's why when I asked poor Cindy,
Uh-huh.
can you do this and do this and do this, and let's see who I'm really hurting
Right,
by doing this.
yeah, so
It was
I
so all over the place, it's like, I'm not gonna write 279 exceptions. I'm just
yeah,
not doing
no,
it.
no, I got it. I mean, I was just thinking that if we could take an average assessment and show like what the increase would
Okay,
be.
the average assessment, let me look.
I
We
mean,
have
Let me pick for
Just
132.
because so many people don't really get numbers or budget, I mean, no matter how
At the
many times you
average
over.
assessment, as I recall, and I'm recalling off the top of my head, is 110,000.
Average,
And so, what I don't know is what the average tax was last year. I mean, I didn't spend the time to do that.
$200 and some dollars.
So, the average house at 23 cents would be about $240, I believe,
Yeah.
if I do that in my head.
Okay, so I just want to like put out there that I'm really not opposed, I mean, I don't want a tax increase, but
Oh,
I'm
we
not
don't, we don't wanna do that.
And I think that one is warranted. And what would be helpful to me is if we had the 16, 17 fiscal year numbers to compare on the spreadsheet
Well,
to
we
the
did.
current budget.
They are on that second sheet, aren't they?
No, this is what I was copying, and I'll pass this out. Now, I have to say,
Because I'm
there were
looking for-
last minute revisions, and I do have a mistake in here that I just had to give up looking for. So, we will
I'm
read
sort
it.
of a comparison person.
Okay, so,
But I think.
But it's not a big mistake.
Yeah, the big thing is, it's not going to increase anyone's
make
taxes horrific.
thousands.
I mean, the amount you currently pay to the town.
And so, one of
The
the
difference between 17
one of the
and
things that was done in the
23
past
individually.
is we budgeted to collect everything. That would have been 100% of what we billed.
Okay,
And this is what we've actually collected to date, or through this comparison sheet is through May the 8th, we had collected $45,000. Now, if you'll see, $7,000 of that is old back taxes, and that's just from people selling their houses.
and they don't have a choice then.
Right. And then-
So if you look at, we actually billed 48,000, we've only collected 38 of it.
Get it needed.
So actually, in our, in the differences this year, we said, well, what do we actually collect? And within like the 18 months after you do the billing, you collect about 80% of it.
Right.
And then it just falls off. And then there's probably 13% that just are gonna hold out until they die or sell their house.
Something happens, yeah. An earthquake.
So I have a
So,
question. When you have a delinquent tax situation, does the town have the ability to attach a lien and force the
Yes, we
sale
do
of the
that.
house?
We do that. The problem is, it's one of those situations, you can put a lien on it, and you will eventually get, in all likelihood, get your money, but it may be years down the road. And it's something I wanted to at some point bring up in here, because if you know anybody that's just not paying their taxes out of principle or for a reason, if it's financial, they can work with Dolly and they come up with methodologies to deal with it. But we have some that just say, I'm not gonna pay taxes. Well, everyone needs to realize, and you please spread the word, if you do that, you not only get a penalty, but you're getting charged interest.
Mhm.
And it's compounded quarterly. And we were looking at it the other day with the compounding rate. You wind up paying 13.2% interest annualized on these penalties and fines.
We have
And
a, Well,
when you go to sell your house, you're gonna get a lot less than what you thought.
I'll just give you an
Or your
example.
kids, if you die and then give it to them, they're gonna get a lot less.
Okay, as an example, we have a resident who may be selling their house, and the taxes on it, the actual taxes, $2,800, but including penalties and interest, $6,600.
Because this person just made the decision that they didn't want to pay.
Well, let's just hope she sells her house quick.
There you go.
Exactly.
I wished I could get 13.2% on my money.
Well, I know where you can,
But
but
I hate it, and I hope people that are making that decision understand what the impacts are. And that's when
One of the
when
things
we
we
talk
want
about
to do is be more,
communicating about
Yes.
that. Make sure,
yeah,
if you really are gonna do this, please understand the ramifications, because they're
Right.
not good.
right.
The only thing we could do more than that is like they do in other communities, and that's going in and try and take someone's house. And I'll be honest with you, we don't want to start doing that out
Well, I mean,
here. We
it
just-
becomes necessary sometimes.
Right. I
So,
mean,
so the other question I have has to do with the tax base, and that is what happens with these houses that are unoccupied? Maybe in foreclosure, maybe not, maybe they're owned by the tribe, but how does those things affect the tax rolls on a year-to-year basis?
That does affect it. Year to year, there's not a whole lot of change. There are, I'm gonna do these numbers off the top of my head, 15 houses or 17 that are owned by CCBC, I
It's less than
think. Maybe 14.
well, there's some that are older.
And then
No,
there
no,
are,
I mean, there's about 7, I think, that are owned by CCDC. And then
Well, the
there's,
ones that are in foreclosure will eventually get the money.
yeah, and the other thing is the foreclosure, once it's actually foreclosed, while it's in that limbo land, pretty much nothing happens. Once it becomes real estate owned by the financial institution, they pay. So that's just a delay, and they pay the penalties and interest, because I've seen several of those just in, the last 4 or 5 months, so that's not really an issue.
But if CCDC has it, are they paying the tax? They're in a tax assessment on them for that? But we have to pay them the $140 that they want for each of our lots when they decide to assess us.
But
Yeah.
that's for the water, I mean, that's water.
Well,
It's in the master lease, it's in the,
I know it's for improvements, and they haven't done any improvements. They've done maintenance with that money, which is not improvements. Well, it's just not
Well,
They're going to do improvements, there's a major.
Hey, I'm gonna do some improvements too.
well, here's part of the issue. They had, under the master lease, they had the right to charge that $140 per lot since the beginning.
Right,
They didn't do that. They only started doing it probably, 6 years ago? maybe not even
About
one.
like 4 or 5 years ago.
And so there's an issue because there's not really enough money built up to do anything. I mean, it was a mistake,
And
but,
somebody else ran off with some of that money too, I understand.
I don't know. I have no
Big,
idea.
big chunk of it. Well, anyway,
But
okay,
they have spent several tens of thousands of dollars on engineering work
okay.
in order to be able to apply for a grant. And that process is 95% complete.
So do you know what that has to do with? Is that, can you give us more water? better water?
Wastewater and sewer. I mean, wastewater and freshwater, both. Totally redoing both systems.
There's,
The sewage system wastewater system is more critical.
So, I have, this is completely unrelated, but when I lived over here on Scamarao, we didn't have any hard water stains in our house at all. And those fixtures had been there a long time. Over here on Huchanitza, we got hard water stains in the porcelain fixtures that are less than 2 years old.
Well, perhaps there was a water softener in one house, not the other.
Actually, there's a water softener in this house I live in now, and we never used it, but the other house had no water softener. Big difference in the water.
How do you say that
There
street
should,
name?
there can't be any difference in the water.
Your old street name, how do you say that?
Scamarao,
Chicken Mary.
Lizard?
if you translate it to English, it's lizard, right?
is it Chicken
Scamarao.
Chicken Mary.
I don't know. Ron told me Chicken was
Linda?
So, I just want to put this out there just as I think that at this last election, there were some issues that came up and it was interesting discussing those issues with people in the community. And I'm hoping that maybe the assembly members will volunteer their time to help run the town. This is just a wish list.
I'd like to speak to that one.
I mean, I think that, I worked in county government for a good number of years, for 2 counties that were joined together for their resources. And we worked as a team.
Well, they are, and they are also, and this is, people don't know this because they don't go out and carry signs, oh, I'm doing this to help the town. I'm gonna tell you what the assembly's been doing, okay? Mr. Riker cleaned up the poop cans for everybody in town. That is not a nice job, okay? Denise went around town in her personal pickup truck, picking up trash, the yard waste, and bringing it down.
Plus, she did the presentation. She did the.
Yeah, Denise did this. Every one of this assembly comes in. Our mayor filed.
He's our file clerk.
He's our file clerk.
Great, well, I think people need to know that.
Everyone, but what, they come in, they're there, they come into the office, they all volunteer to do something.
We're all
And
volunteering for
they
Saturday.
don't wait to be asked, they come in and say, hey, what can we do to help? But, they don't go around town, well, today I went and spent, people have to give them the benefit of the doubt too.
Well,
I'm in there every day, I know what they do,
Yeah, well,
so.
we don't. So I think it's good for people to know, and I think it's nice that people do that. And the other piece that I have is sort of on my wish list is to somehow communicate due diligence about decisions. Every decision that we made in county government, we had to have a sound rationale. For example, for solar, I would want to know how many years is it going to take for this capital expenditure to recoup itself.
We won't know that until we get all the numbers out.
But, no, you're right.
But
And that's one of the things we talked about is when we look at expenditure,
We'll know.
when we look at return on investment, that's what we're looking at is if we spend this money, how long is it gonna take us to get the
Yeah,
payback?
I want to know the benefit
The other
of
thing-
capital expenditure.
Yeah.
As a person who pays taxes,
Oh,
my money
absolutely.
is being spent for an improvement or capital expenditure.
And one of the things, kind of delinquent on it that I've started working on is, we've got some budget for some capital expenditures out here, repair work, things of that nature. Going forward, we're gonna have, it's gonna be simplified, but we are gonna have an RFP process, and that's, for those who aren't familiar, it's a request for Well, I call it a request for product, that's because of the industry I came from, but basically, we're gonna ask for proposals, and we're gonna get competitive bids to make sure that we're optimizing what we're spending out here.
Good. That makes the process transparent and it gives
Exactly.
people a better understanding of what needs to happen. Also, I think that due diligence needs to be made on hiring, firing, and also on salary increases. I mean, are other places doing these same kinds of things, other towns, other governmental entities? And that's all I want, really. I just want to know that the due diligence has been done. And then that way I can say, rest easy saying my money's being spent in a responsible manner.
You know, as we've been going through the budget process, a phrase I've used probably half a dozen times when we go through and look at decisions and what we're doing, the question I always pose is, are we doing the right thing fundamentally? I mean, are we making the right decisions financially and overall for the community? Because we live here obviously as well. It's our money too, and I'm kind of cheap. We want to make sure that we get what we're paying for.
Yeah, and I think that people want to know that it's been looked at like in a little more global
Oh,
fashion. Like, is this practice elsewhere? You know, because I think that's a sore spot with our current national government, not to mention politics.
Oh, God.
But anyway.
Well, there are no salary increases in this budget, 0. And as you'll notice, they're actually down. I mean, if you look at last year's budget to this year's budget, but the salary expense is lower.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to look at the comparison
So,
budget.
we
yet,
budgeted last year for salaries of $124,000, this is for town hall and library. Budgeted for $124,000 and $383, and this year we budgeted for $117,700, so.
Does that account the salary from is the new treasurer an employee?
It's in the budget.
Oh, you're the treasurer.
Yes, and it's in the budget.
It's in the budget.
So
It's
that-
in there already.
So those are just like wish list items that I have. And that's why, I'm excited about our new assembly and hopefully that will happen.
We only hope we justify your excitement.
Yes, Mary?
I want to thank Denise for this presentation. It's just, it says so much. It's like a picture's worth 1,000 words.
I'm a visual person.
Or at least
I can't-
this one.
This means nothing.
Can we post this on the town webpage?
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
I think that would be an excellent
The
idea.
presentation?
It is a PowerPoint, is that correct?
It is.
But it can be converted to a
PDF.
PDF and people can really get a chance to muse about what we're seeing here. I think that would be great.
Yeah, we'll do the right thing. The only concern I have about posting PowerPoint is it's not they're bullets, they're talking points, and I'm not sure everybody will understand what you mean by on an individual bullet.
No, I just think a PDF is, that's what the state library does for us, is that it's a PowerPoint presentation, but it comes to us in PDF format.
Right.
David?
I just had a few questions and comments. The first one is I think the process you're going through is very good. Prior assemblies, they tended not to focus on or present a process. They would just say, okay, line number 1 is $123, okay, line number 2 is $205. And you're thinking, holy S, what the hell is this? The process, I think, is very important. I think the philosophy that you put up as the first slide is excellent. If you don't have a philosophy or a goal, the rest is kind of...
Can I stop you 1 second?
Sure.
It was fun getting to
Yeah, don't think it's like,
that. No,
You mean the philosophy?
yeah, because, trying to do this so I don't pat myself in the back.
Go ahead.
I like letting people go and just see what the hell's gonna happen, all right, honestly. And I was shocked at how well they all started getting into the philosophy, not the nitty-gritty. What do we want to do? How do we want to think about this? It was fun to watch, I'll be honest. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No problem. That's good to hear. Yeah, no, my take is briefly from working on lots of projects, technical projects over the year. If you don't have a good goal, you're gonna have a bad project.
Exactly.
So you need to have a goal, and the problem is the goals are very hard. People will think just briefly that they'll think, oh, I'll crank this out in 5 minutes. No, it's probably a week-long process with a lot of people involved for fairly technical projects. And they think, a week? No way. That's like, 40 hours times 3 people. We can't spend money on it. So if you don't spend the money up front, you're gonna lose a hell of a lot on the back end. Just a brief thing. So the only issue I have is, it'd be nice if this whole budgeting process was done earlier. You folks have, I think at the end of this month, you have to submit preliminary budget to the state. That's
Well, here's part of the
2 weeks
problem,
ago.
because
2 weeks from now.
I looked at the town charter, I said, the way this works is crazy. You elect a new assembly and then you have like 3 weeks and you need a preliminary budget. I mean, it's a little more than that.
Yeah.
But the election date is set by the charter. And so, starting, it's not as if nothing was done prior to the new assembly being elected, but, that makes a big difference. What are they gonna want? So I think we're kind of, and when that was done, we didn't have to submit a preliminary budget on May the 30th, because if you go and look at the charter, you submitted a budget June the 30th. So there was a whole extra month in there to,
But the state requires it on May 30th.
yeah, but now the state has moved their deadlines up, so it is kind of a problem.
No, I would just suggest start the budgeting process,
It is a-
start it earlier, like 3 months in advance. Just because I think there's a lot of issues that need to be
No,
addressed.
I understand what you're saying.
No, I understand what you're saying too, Cindy.
The agony gets into, then you bring people in and you almost have it fixed, and it's kind of like.
Yeah, no, I know, it's a catch
You know,
22.
you're in that bad time. If the timing's different, I'm 100% with you.
And the other thing is you do kind of need to see what's happening in the current fiscal year to see what is reasonable to budget for the upcoming year. There is a little bit of that, obviously, because you kind of need to see what's actually happening, what's the reality that's happening, and, so.
And that was part of the reason for Cindy going back those 7 years, because you could sit and look and go, okay, this happened, okay, this happened, okay, this happened. What's the real run rate? What's the bad burn rate? And those type of things. And you came up with better ideas, I think.
Sure, and I understand, it's not black and white issues. The other thing is, the slideshow, just support providing that on, let's say, Nextdoor. I think the slide is very good.
Look, before we jump off this level, let me ask a question, because you brought up a really great point. It's important to have a philosophy of how you're running your business, how we're managing the town. This is what we focused on from a budgetary perspective. This is not just today, but do you guys agree with our philosophy, what we're trying to accomplish?
We're just waiting to see if you do it.
Well, first we have to figure out what we're doing.
Yeah, actually, a very good point.
It is actually a good point, because there's a number of things that we're talking about, what we're working on and meeting with. I wish some of the stuff I'm working on I could have finished for this budget. It just takes weeks or months sometimes to negotiate things. So this is not going to be, when we approve the budget next week, that it's over. We've still got work to do through the rest of the year, because we're just going to continue to look at where can we reduce costs. Where does it make sense? Right now, we're looking at IT and phone costs. We're looking at some of the contract stuff that we do relative to pick up. The materials, I'm looking at alternate sources for that. For those that sat in during the budget review, the first budget review, there were a number of items that we were going through on there. We're going, well, why are we paying so much for that? Well, we're going to continue to go through those and see what we can do to bring them down. So.
Yeah, I would just say on your philosophy, add reducing costs.
Yeah.
I think that would be important.
Yeah.
Minimizing financial impact is.
Yeah.
I mean,
Both directions.
The key is, I made just one quick general comment on any goals or philosophies like this. I would use them if I was writing, the rest of the slides. I would have if there's 7 points in your philosophy, you're gonna have 7 topics to discuss. So the philosophy starts off as the high-level outline for all the details.
Yeah, what we tried to do is, as we went through this, we wanted to lay out what's our overall objective? And then as we went through and identified issues, what we've also got on the next slide is the mitigation. In other words, we got a problem here, something we've got an issue with. What are we doing about it? Because just saying we got a problem doesn't do much good. It might make you feel good, but doesn't do much good in the end unless you specifically are doing something to mitigate that problem.
Understood. Again, just want to thank you for the presentation of the philosophy. I think that's 90% of it. And just a few other comments. This is the question, and I don't need an answer, but how will the Assembly try and reduce expenses or reduce costs? I mean, that's a whole nother topic, but there's no answer.
There's not a single answer for it.
Exactly.
We talked about some of that in the mitigation slide.
Yeah.
Understood. Okay, let me see, just one other thing.
No, not litigation, no.
Mitigation, not litigation.
Yeah, litigation doesn't reduce costs.
Understood.
Cindy has told me if she has a lawyer hat on, I have to pay more.
Yeah.
Understood.
No.
Concerning the town taxes and tribal members and CCDC homes, do the town taxes apply to every home in town? So do you send a town bill to CCDC? And do they pay it?
They get them, no.
Do they have
truthfully,
liens?
I don't believe that we sent them a bill last year, from what I can tell.
Yeah, we sent bills to every home that had.
No, CCDC, I'm not talking about.
We're talking
The
about
answer is
numbers.
yes. So do we collect them all? No.
Okay, do you put
And
link?
a lot of the Pueblo members do pay. I mean, it's kind of a,
Yeah, be clear. Some
But the
do.
CCD, you said there's some,
You know, it's the
It's
other
a
thing.
wide thing.
Some of them do pay, just like some of the people who aren't from the Pueblo.
and here's the
Not everybody
thing.
does.
And this is, I did not realize this until I was really examining this. You know, back whenever it was, 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, when Sandoval County pulled out all the land values from our houses because it was tribally owned land. Well, not only did they pull the values out from our houses, they took the Pueblo members off the tax rolls for the county.
So we have no assessment, no
We don't have any
assessments for
assessment.
them.
But we're going.
no, you actually,
We're coming up with an idea.
well, actually, this county does maintain assessments for tribally owned homes. You just have to ask them.
But you know, the bottom line is like Denise said, some do, some don't. When it comes to not paying your taxes in Cochiti-Lake, we're very multicultural.
Yeah.
Okay, but the CCDC homes, have you sent tax bills to them? You know, like CCDC will outright own a house.
I didn't do the taxes, I didn't build the bill.
You know what?
last year.
Yeah, Bud brought that up, and I'll be honest with you, I can't answer, but that's something we need to go take a look at.
But the key is, it seems like should the town be billing CCDC? Okay, and if CCDC doesn't pay the tax, what does the Assembly, what does Town Hall
Well,
do?
first let us get to that, are we billing them? And are they paying it? And then we need to figure out, sitting down with them,
We do.
where we go from there.
And
But I can't answer the question right now.
I do have another question, and I just, because I'm relatively new here, and I think Alan said that whenever we apply for a grant or something, that the Pueblo interferes.
If it's just purely the town and it is monies that they believe they themselves could get, yes, they will stop.
There's an ordinance that was passed in 2002.
I want to say 1-3 for some reason.
I'd have to pull it out, but it was a Pueblo ordinance that applied to us because we are a political subdivision of the Pueblo. So there's this legal thing in peri parente, which means basically we're a child of the Pueblo. It's a legal thing. And that they can do that. They have a legal right to do that. Now,
They're the landlord.
they're the landlord. But here's the thing, now on the EMS agreement and the fire, because we're now a consolidated department, that ordinance does not apply to any grant that we apply for under the EMS or the fire.
Right.
So, because it's for their benefit as well. And I think that's the way they look at the library as well. I mean, you know, we get grants, we send them a little packet at the end of the year and say, here's everything we got. Call if you have a question. So, I mean, if we applied for like $1 million grant, I think they would take notice. If it's, if it's smaller things,
So they think if we get a grant that
it
it
takes away from
reduces
them.
the pot that they can,
You got it.
even if they're not stirring that pot or taking from that pot.
But if they look at it and go, well, I could be. I mean, what it really comes down to is, that's one of the reasons we need to be very smart about how we write our grants.
Well,
And we need to make sure we continue to improve the relationship with the Pueblo.
But we
Because
cannot write for ourselves.
if we've got a better relationship, a strong relationship, you got a better chance of getting a yes.
well, what we have is a lease. That's what we have.
We do. But we're also part of Cochiti-Pueblo from a geographical perspective.
Mhm.
And I'm just learning through the process of this, so I'm still a bit ignorant when I talk to this in some areas, but it's not as simple perhaps as we would like it to be.
Well, I was interested to see how the name of CCDC, they took the name of the bankrupt company that started this business.
No, that's not.
Well, it's not exactly the same, but the letters are the same.
No, it's not.
No, because it was Great
That's where
Western.
Great Western Cities.
Well,
Great
it
Western
it
Cities.
said Capital Development or Capital Community Development.
Cochiti Community Development
Well, I
Corporation.
know that, but I'm talking about the master lease from way back in the
No, it's Great
60s.
Western Cities.
Yeah.
It's Great Western.
But even, I think the important point too here is that, we can talk about that it's not fair that we can't apply for particularly federal grants. But that's not gonna make it go away. I think what these guys are working so hard to do is look for other opportunities to make things happen for us. Not saying that if we think we can apply for grants, Don and I met recently about that, to talk about, if there's some kind of community grant we might be able to get. But the bottom line is we do have to adhere to the relationship, and if we apply for grants, we have to let the Pueblo know. John, because of what Chief John has done in our relationship with the Pueblo now with the fire department, that's why he can get grants. Because it is a mutual aid situation. We're not a mutual aid situation to the Cochiti Pueblo. They're our landlords, period.
In the end, we're all just people. If we've got a good relationship, it's gonna go better. If they're all pissed off at us, probably not so much.
And from living through the bad old days, I can tell you, you don't want to be back there. When, there was a lawsuit threatened every other day, and, complaining to the BIA, and it wasn't worth it. We spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I'm not exaggerating, on a totally, the only thing that we got out of that is they used to charge, if you look in the old lease, there was a recreation fee that was about $24 a quarter or something like that. And after the BIA decision, after everything went up in the air and fell back down, the only thing that happened is they quit charging that rec fee.
Oh, it cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars
To get
in
it.
legal
And
fees.
hurt the relationship. See, it's the old adage of winning the battle and losing the war.
Pay her rent for him.
So, to back David's question, do we send bills to all the people who own homes here? That have addresses, and do we look up the addresses of?
Well, since we have the new Sandoval County assessments, we have the addresses that Sandoval County uses to send their invoices out. So in some instances, we'll be going through and updating addresses. But that's quite helpful, because that's one of the things that came on the disc we got. So yes.
And when does the leasehold actual check come in? So are you budgeting for a year, half a year, 3/4 of a year
Every other year it comes in a whole or a half. Last year was the half, so I would assume this year will be the whole.
Two payments.
Two
Yeah.
payments, but I won't hold my breath.
But regardless if we get it in one or two, you know, we're planning this on 110,000, even though the budget that has not been signed says 111.
One good thing is we're gonna finish the year with a pretty good cash balance, and so that should help, you know,
See
get us
the
through.
months that, before they send the check.
Right, we should finish the year with a $30,000 to $38,000 balance, so that'll help.
I have another question. Do we owe any money?
Other than monthly bills. Oh, we owe, you know, just the normal accounts payable, and we pay them on a monthly basis. We don't have anything that's past due that I know of. Now, the one thing we do owe money on, you know, the fire department bought a new fire engine last year. And the way it works is, and this was all done in conjunction with the state fire marshal's office, the Department of Finance Administration, and us, so it's a coordinated thing. So we paid, well, I'm gonna say $15,000 of the cost of a $333,000 fire engine. So that came out of our, you know, out of the fire fund's checking account. The rest of it is set up on a note. And so what happens is, the state fire office says, okay, you're gonna get $136,000. We're just gonna use that as a round number. $36,000 of that immediately goes to the Department of Finance Administration to pay the note on the fire engine, and then we get the balance. So it's called an intercept loan because they are intercepting the funds from the state fire office before we ever get them. So yes, we do, well, it's not in, if you look on the, you have to look on the volunteer fire department budget because that's where it comes out.
Okay.
It doesn't come out of the general fund. That money never comes into the general fund and it never leaves the general fund.
But
And it is in the fire department budget. So what we show is we show the whole $136,000 that's coming from the state, and then offset by the intercept payment, which is like the last line on the fire department budget in the expenses.
But technically, we don't owe that.
Well, we signed a note. You signed
We
it.
signed the note, the fire department.
Yeah, but we're the fiscal,
Yeah,
I mean, but
it's getting paid, that's
it's
my
getting
point.
paid,
It's
and
not
the
like-
agreement is, it's not just it's getting paid, the state fire office has agreed to pay it.
Yes.
Oh,
That's
All
what
we're
I
doing
meant.
is
It's not
tracking the
like
money.
we went out and took a
no,
$330,000
no,
loan.
it's a tri-party
we don't
agreement.
owe any money.
Okay,
No,
we don't have a big thing out there hanging over our head that we're not compensating, you know, that we're not compensating.
we probably have an electric bill.
It's really, the
we
majority
have-
of what we're dealing with is just your standard operating expenses.
We don't have a credit card bill, I mean, you know, we get a credit card bill in, we pay it, you know, the next month, just like we're supposed to.
And then we have money left over till the state sends us a check.
Yes.
And
Yeah, we have enough
when
money.
does that usually happen?
It depends of when the LCAA, when the grant comes out. It can be as early as August or as late as like late September. It sort of depends on when, and it seems to have gotten later than it used to be. 'Cause I think when I was town administrator, I think that we got it in late August. But it seems to be coming in later.
And we can't control that.
No, that's,
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised to see it in half.
But you make the budget from July to July.
and that's what we're required
We
to do.
do, we have to do that.
And-
That's the state
and
requires
So there
it.
are a couple of months when
Yeah.
we don't have any income coming in.
Unless we collect some past due taxes.
And so how many homeowners owe tax?
I don't know the number, I can tell you the amount is about $48,000.
It's like, oh, here's a.
So you send your payment in 2 installments. Every 6 months, you're billed, you pay half of it, and in 6 months, you pay the other half. I mean, you're budgeted, I mean, the budget
Oh, you mean of course collecting?
Yeah, because I pay mine twice a year.
Yeah, but that's not how it works. People pay it.
Pay it whenever.
Or-
Well, yeah, I know,
Oh,
I
you
know
mean the
that, but I
taxes?
feel,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I'm being fiscal.
And we're gonna, and actually, we've talked about, this is really getting ahead of the game, but we've talked about, we wanna get tax bills out earlier and set up a slightly different, payment schedule. But it would be literally 2 times a year.
Well, this is the question I had about the taxes, and some of it's philosophical because of our relationship with the tribe. You said that there's seven houses here that are owned by CCDC.
I think that's right.
They are billed, but they don't pay taxes.
Ruth, I took an action item, I've got it in my notes, that we need to go do a drill down in those specific houses.
Okay, well, my
We need
point
to go over
is, when you send out a bill, and this goes for everyone in the town, and then I'll talk about the payments for the water assessment, we're paying for, if the tribe aren't paying the water assessment for those houses, we're paying for their property to be improved. That's nothing. But when I get my town bill, and everyone gets their town bill every year, it's a certain amount. It would be helpful to know in a very short thing that this percent of your bill pays to keep the library open. This keeps Jean working. If you do not pay these bills at
We
the
actually have
end,
talked about that, that's so
Okay.
interesting.
if you don't pay these bills, and this goes to the Indians too, if you choose not to pay, if you rent that house, please inform your new tenants that they are not going to have yard waste, they're not going to be able to use the library. Anything that we can restrict them for not doing, the fire department, we can't, we have to keep them safe. But these are the things that are going to happen in a very nice way when if you don't pay your taxes, you rent this house out, be informed that your tenants are not going to get.
The library's kind of a problem because we have
Well,
open
I
access.
know there's
library.
certain limitations, but in a very nice way.
The yard waste would be a problem too, because it's gonna penalize the rest of the people, because then you're gonna have it piled up and nobody picking it up. That's
And we have done that
hazardous to the
before.
rest of the town.
Okay, it's just a point that you don't pay, you don't get a service.
But we have talked about kind of itemizing a little bit,
Kind of
like in county taxes, where it says like schools, hospitals,
You
whatever.
didn't pay street by street by street or house by house.
In some municipalities,
They keep just.
they give you a discount when you pay timely. And really, they don't give you a discount, they charge you more if you don't.
Well, that's kind of.
Well, there you go.
That's kind of what we
Like
do here.
that.
But if you make it look like a discount, people will pay it quicker.
That's been discussed too.
They get my tax bill, it's paid.
David?
Yeah, just a quick question about the fire department's new fire engine and the loan that you said the town signed. Is the town at all liable, wait this way, does the town have any liability relating to that loan if, for example, somehow the state doesn't pay for it?
No.
So it would be a liability on the fire department side, the volunteer fire
It would be
department.
a liability probably on the county side, I guess.
I'm gonna tell you, I would have to go back and read it. I wasn't here when it was signed, but it is a tri-party agreement. It is, I just don't know. I mean, I don't know what the default provisions are. My guess is the default provision would be they come get the fire engine, but I don't know. That's just a guess, and I shouldn't guess.
Whoever generated the
Possess the
loan,
fire.
I would expect they would try and, on their part, get the county more responsible because, let's face it, they got if
It's a-
something goes into default, they got a better chance of getting their money from Sandoval County
Well,
than Cochiti-Lake.
but actually it's two state, I mean, that's one thing. Most of the fire funds come from the state, the EMS funds come from the county, essentially. We only get like $7,000 a year from the state for the EMS system. But all the money for the fire comes from the state itself. So what you have is in these three parties, you have two state agencies and us. And so I seriously, I mean, we could see how many angels dance on the head of the pin. This is how almost all the fire departments in the whole state buy their equipment now, because it's just too expensive. It used to be, what you would do is, like the fire department would have about $10,000 maybe left over every year, and then they put it in a CD, and I think that last engine cost maybe $100,000 or $120,000, so you could conceivably come up with enough money out of your own funds to buy it. But equipment is so expensive now, there's just no way. You'd never be able to buy it. So I have to read it, but I do think it's angels dancing on the head of the pin.
Okay, well, thank you. Could the assembly, so I request, can the assembly check into that and
Yeah.
and see
Yeah,
what,
we'll
see
read
what
it.
the answer
It's
is?
about this thick, it's typical.
Okay. Thank you for the information.
See, I kind of see that in the way it's, they're very upset about our Vanguard funds. And the reason they're upset about our Vanguard funds is because we don't have any treasuries backing them up. We don't have treasuries backing them up because they are in themselves treasuries. So I don't understand what they're asking me, they can't explain it to me. And the way I see the fire truck, to be honest with you, is if the county and the state go, they sure ain't coming here for the truck. I mean, it's just, once that domino's gone, this domino's irrelevant. So as long as they're here, they're gonna pay. That's just my viewpoint. But I will look into that just to make sure. Anything else?
Thank you for the job y'all have done.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
And-
I just filed.
And I just have to say, just as a kind of a caveat, we were like revising and, trying to come up with things at the last minute. And I know there may be an error or two here, but so before we put it up on, because we're going to put it up on the board,
Yeah.
right? And put copies in the library, I'm going to run back through everything and find you home and find where I'm out of balance, which I hate being out of balance. It's not huge, it's just a small
It
amount.
doesn't matter if it's a penny, you can find it.
So it's not
That's what
an
we
exception of a few $1 million.
I mean, pardon?
If we're missing a few $1 million, you should hire me forever, sir.
That's all I'm asking.
No, it's just, you don't want to know the nitty gritty because it's boring to everyone but me.
I hope everyone liked the new format. We thought this would make it a lot easier to have an open discussion if we could, instead of just going through line by line, focus on what the issues are, what's going on.
Hey. Made the issues clear.
Yeah.
Okay?
Can you give a monthly budget report?
Sandy, would you address that?
Well, what we
financial-wise?
discussed internally about it is I really think quarterly financials make more sense than monthly because, and I will say this, in the past, when they, plug the numbers into the budget, it's been, okay, we're gonna get this amount of money or we're gonna spend this amount of money, divide it by 12, and you put that much in every category, which makes the monthly budget to actual absolutely meaningless. So what we're doing this year when we, get this finished, this is still preliminary, we are going to try to assign the expenses more in the month that we think they're occurring, so that your budgets to actuals will look more realistic. But on a month-to-month basis, looking at budget to actual, you can have one thing slide this way, one thing come early, and it just, it's not
Quarterly gives you a
meaningful.
more smooth effect.
And a quarterly is much better. I mean, I really think it's, monthly can almost be misleading if you're like hanging on that monthly number every time.
It's like watching us talk every day.
I think due to the recent problems with the accountability of what has been happening, and I'm not saying lay blame or anything, but that was an issue for a lot of people who were concerned.
We were too, believe me.
Well, I think that at least for a while, a quarterly report would be reassuring to me.
Oh, no,
No,
there
we're
will
doing
be.
quarterly.
There will be.
And remember, we were doing monthly then.
Yeah, but it wasn't right.
Well, that's my point.
You can do it daily, I don't care if it's daily, but I want it to be right.
Yeah, exactly.
David?
Yeah, just one quick comment about, can I just ask a question about the general fund proposed budget?
Yeah.
There's On the last page, page 4, it has at the very bottom, provision for EMS fire chief first-year salary assistant.
Yeah.
Why is this in the general fund and not the volunteer fire department budget?
Okay. Number one, it's actually would be on the, it is in the EMS budget. The salary is in the EMS budget, but if you'll note down at the bottom, there's about a $13,000 gap between where we think they'll be and what would take to get a first year EMS. We're calling it EMS/fire chief. It's really an EMS person. That's really what we're looking for. And so in discussing it, you know, part of the philosophizing was the assembly decided that they would be willing, and this would come out of Raymond James, or someplace else it would come from, to provide up to 50% of a full-time EMS person's salary for the first year. So that $22,800, that would be salary and payroll taxes for half a year. And the way I look at it, if you look at the EMS budget, they're going to end the year with a fair amount of cash. So that should carry them into at least the first quarter without any assistance. And the other thing, that cash number actually may be as much as $10,000 low, because we still have $10,000 we're supposed to receive from the county. Because we're supposed to get $40,000 a year, and we've collected $30,000 so far. And I'm going to get with John about sending, you have to send them a bill for what they promised to give you, but you know, be that as it may. So it actually may be as little as $3,000 in assistance. But this is to just get them started, you know, get them over the hump.
They, you know, one of the things we talked about earlier is that, you know, John is eventually going to be leaving. And one of the things he's focused on right now, and with everyone, is being able to bring in more grants, more revenue to cover himself. But we took a conservative approach at budgeting this year. You know, in the past, we would assume we'd collect 100% of the taxes. That doesn't ever happen, so why are we planning on it? So when we see that there's a potential for an expense out there, like, for example, covering the cost, or part of the cost of a fire chief for a year, we put that in the budget. It's very feasible with the increases in revenue that coming in that we're going to try and focus on. That'll never be spent. And it's not looked at as a recurring cost. This is a stopgap measure that we're willing to fund if we have to get this full-time fire chief, because we've got to get things set up to where when John does go off to college,
Medical school.
or, excuse me, to medical school.
He's in college.
When he goes to medical school, we're established, and we can bring in another replacement for him as a full-time fire chief to have continuity and maintain all this. Because, like I said, losing the fire department and losing the EMS services in Cochiti-Lake is a non-starter for me. You just cannot let that happen. There's too many people in our community that rely on being able to get an ambulance there when they need it in a timely manner.
Well,
So,
yeah.
to me, that's critical.
I think one of the things too, it's important to emphasize when we're talking about fire chief. Some of you are aware of what John brings to the table, but I think it's pretty important to really reaffirm that at this juncture of the budget. We're not just getting someone who is very well versed in fiscal management. We're getting someone who is also a paramedic, and that means a lot to us here when you need that kind of medical attention. And you're getting someone who's well versed in the political waters of New Mexico. So he knows how to go after money in New Mexico, and that is important. You know, so we're getting the full package when we get John.
And the other thing is, you know, it's not a secret that he is planning on, I mean, he wants to go to medical school, so I asked him, so what are we going to do when you're gone? I said, one of the things that we would have to do in this 2-year period is identify your replacement, because we don't want to, and that's a conversation we're having. He has some ideas in mind about how to do it. So it's not as if we get this set up and he leaves and then we have to start all over again. There's a transition planning. And part of that is, he does a lot of the admin stuff, but I've told him I would like to try to learn all of that so that even if we brought somebody else in, they wouldn't have as much of a, because that's going to be the hardest thing to find. It's not as hard to find the EMS talent, but to find someone that's got the two things together is difficult.
And the leadership skills that he
Exactly.
brings. For
Yes.
instance, because of the juice that John personally had, we were able to get the EMT training here. Well, that made a big impact for us. Not only does it look really good to the fire academy, but it was good. Directly because of what John showed during that training, we gained 2 new volunteers who were volunteering for other departments, but now are gonna come and volunteer for us. And they said they really liked the way things were set up here and the way it was organized. So, I mean, those are intangibles in some ways, because you guys don't see it, but we do. And so that's another benefit. That means there's 2 more qualified EMTs that will be on our duty schedule.
Yeah. One more thing about John too, that I bet a lot of people don't know. He wants to be a doctor. His goal, since he was a kid, was to be the Cochiti Fire Medical Director. So we will never lose him.
Yeah.
And, the medical director basically sets all of our protocols and gives, we've been on a couple calls recently where the medical director is literally making the calls from the phone on how we're dealing with a critical patient. So how cool is that?
And he does own property in Kennesaw. I mean, he's actually bought some land, and I think he'll be around in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
But it fundamentally comes down to succession planning, and that's what we're doing. We know we're gonna lose them in 10 years, in 2 years. We need to make sure we're ready for that, both financially and from a successor that's in-house, that's more trained, and that we'll be happy with.
And one thing I'd kind of like to say here, I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I kind of look at it as we are supporting the EMS. If they want to pay him as a fire chief, that's their business, not mine. You understand what I'm saying? There's a slight difference there.
Well,
I'm supporting the EMS. That's what I believe in supporting. However they use that money once it's over there, that's good with me.
Yeah, well, the fire, all EMS services come under fire
I
department oversight.
But none of the state fire funds can be
Right.
spent on
Right.
personnel. So
Yeah.
that's why we're
That's-
trying to be really careful on our distinctions.
Yeah, the bottom line is, we've been really scaky. We've had a almost full-time fire chief for free. That isn't gonna happen. We're not gonna get another John to come in there and do this on a voluntary basis. So we just need to recognize it and get ready for it and plan on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate what the direction is and understand the importance of having a local working fire department, but I would suggest not having town funds being used to pay for a fire chief. I'm not against the fire chief getting money, but I think maybe you could look on the county, because the county in the past paid for Calvin Miller's salary.
Okay, here's the thing. The county funding has gone down, costs have gone up. So at the height, we got $55,000 from the county. Well, that's 15,000 more than we get now. If we got 55,000 and we had at times as much as $39,000 in ambulance runs, that's more than enough to pay for the EMS chief. Because I'm calling the EMS chief, not the fire chief, because I'm just that way, I'm just being very specific. And the plan is, that's where we're heading. And it might even happen the first year, but that's the reason it's a one-time payment. We're not pledging forever to pay $23,000.
It's not gonna be a reoccurring cost.
So will this be considered a loan to the EMS?
No, it's not a loan, because there's no way to pay it back. And that
Well,
would be-
I would suggest talking to the county, because my understanding is if
We-
the station disappears, the county's gonna have a hell of a lot higher liability in terms of cost to service this area.
No,
They're not
no,
gonna
John-
want to change,
John is
they're not gonna
actually-
want
John is
San
working with
Domingo or
Sandoval
the
County.
Cochiti
John
Fire
talks to
Department.
the county probably once a week, and he just had a big meeting with them about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so it's not, and I want you to think that this is, okay, we're just gonna give him this money and he's not doing anything. He's already doing things.
Well, and John is working with them on the financial side. The problem, the challenge you have obviously is Sandoval County's in some boat we're in. You know, their monies are gonna go down. Now, he has, excuse me, he has been able to increase the money we're gonna get this year from them, and it looks like we're gonna get even more next year. But if we're going to go after money from Sandoval County, our best chance of success is to do it while John's still here because of the relationship he has. We bring in a new fire chief, that relationship's not there, so we need to do this now. I mean, we know John's leaving in 2 years, we've got to get a lot of stuff done before that happens.
Does the, one last question, and thank you for your information about this. And does the town have a professional services agreement with Sandoval County about the fire, about the
Yeah.
EMS?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, what's the value of that agreement?
Well, for this year, $40,000,
$40,000.
$10,000 a quarter for the current fiscal year.
Understood, okay, thank you.
Actually, I have one more question. I haven't really had a chance to sort of look at this
Yeah.
budget in detail, but, where do you show what you draw from the Raymond James Fund? And what are
This shows, the only place that this would show a draw from Raymond James is, okay, if you go over to the last page, and you see, okay, $8,000 is the estimated investment earnings. So we would assume, I was changing these things at the, trying to do this at the last minute. So the $8,000 is investment income, and it does show on one of the
Oh,
schedules.
okay, I see it on here.
Okay, so for at least the last 17, 18 years, we have included the investment income from Raymond James in our budget as a source of revenue. So there's that amount there. Then we show a $41,000 deficit thereabouts. And then, but we're estimating we'll have beginning cash of about $38,000. So it's like we have carryover funds. We have money that we have not spent for this fiscal year that's still in our bank account. So that would bring down to about $3,000 from the general fund. And then if the entire amount was needed to fund the EMS chief, it would be about $26,000.
See, Linda, the nice thing, in the past, the way it's worked out, we've always exceeded the budget. So they do adjustments through the year,
Right.
and then they go pull that from Raymond James.
Okay,
What we're trying to do is put a budget in that's realistic, so that we, instead of us going over budget, we've got a better chance of actually coming in under budget.
And budget adjustments are allowed during the year, but to me, they kind of muddy the water. Because by the time you're adjusting the budget, it's like, okay, we gotta do this because we're spending the money, it's happening. So what we've tried to do is to be more realistic, proactive, honest, however you want to put it, in what it really is going to cost. And show this up front rather than trying to show, well, we're not going to use any of that money, and then just adjust along the year and we have to pull money out.
yeah,
I mean, and that doesn't mean that there couldn't be something that comes up, but
right.
we've tried to provide for it.
So then your major expenditure out of Raymond James then for this next fiscal year would be the salary,
The fire,
Patch.
the EMS.
and then,
If we have to cover that.
If
If we have to
do
cover
it.
it.
if it has.
But
to
at
be
least
covered.
it's built into the budget,
Right.
so we understand what we're doing.
Yeah, are there any other capital expenditures planned?
The main capital expended,
Well, we have, if you'll,
Or,
okay, if you'll go back and look up at, I know y'all hate to do this, but 45702 and 45703. Okay, 45702 that says capital improvements library, that's money that we've gotten from the Sandoval County bond fund to improve the bathrooms. So that's not our money, that's money, well, it is our money, but it went to Sandoval County and then it came to us.
Right.
Then the other thing is, and it says capital improvements library again, that should say town. Sorry, as I said, I was popping through this. The next one should be $457.03. $9,035, that's the money that we've said, okay, we might need a new air conditioner. The unit up here, 30 years old. Steps.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's not a huge amount of money, but at least it's a start on trying to correct some of the things that need to be corrected.
Yeah.
So that's already in there. That's not something you have to come back and say, oh, by the way, we thought we'd do the steps. Here's a budget adjustment.
You know, bottom line, if we know we're gonna expend it, we're gonna have to spend it. It needs to be in the budget.
Right,
And the only other thing is the maintenance truck is really old.
yes.
Dolly could tell you better, but this year we had the gear shift lever fell off and something else happened. What was the other thing? Fuel pump, yeah, fuel pump. So after those two things were fixed, Dolly talked to the repair guy and said, just give that thing a look over, see what you think might happen. And the only thing that he said that he thinks is a real possibility is the water pump going out. So we doubled the budget for repairs on the truck to $2,000. We spent quite a bit this year. We're hoping that covered a lot of the things that could happen to it.
And John is actually out pursuing from Sandoval County.
No, we're talking about our maintenance truck.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. He Seminole County retires trucks.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
We're trying to get a donated truck to the community.
But we don't
John
know
is.
that's gonna happen, so we're
But
budgeting
again, it's
for-
something that we can do to help mitigate it, but at least we've got it in the budget now, so it's not something that 3 months from now we go, oh, well, I guess we need to have.
And I mean, something else could happen, but we did try to be proactive and try to figure out what might be the next thing to go on this
Right, so
vehicle.
you've got it as a line item
Exactly.
that you can,
Exactly. And
spend
maybe-
if you need
maybe
it,
we
and
do
if
it,
not-
but
And,
If
who knows, the axles would fall off, and
Yeah.
that would be more. I mean, you
Right.
just don't know.
David?
Yeah, thanks for thanks for being proactive and looking into providing money up front before you, in case you need it. It's good to hear that you're thinking about contacting the counties. I do know that they do donate vehicles. I think the Public Works and the police do. So it'd look actually cool if Gene drove around with an ex-police vehicle. He can keep the labels on it. It's part of our local security effort.
I like that because when I lived in Jefferson, the guy that lived across the street from me was a state policeman who had a long driveway but parked his car at the street end. And we had the slowest road you ever seen.
But see, I'm
As they take
concerned
them
about
off
that
before they
because
donate them.
I like Gene picking up the yard waste, but I don't think we need a siren going when he's.
He can keep the lights. And if he can do that at midnight, give him a bonus. With the lights, no siren. And just another thing is too, and another thing is trying to reduce expenses. What about, I'll throw it out, a wood chipper to get rid of I think the waste roll-offs are what, 6, 7, whatever thousand a year. If you had a chipper,
That's something we should.
But it's actually, that area is something we're looking at. I mean, to start with, what we're paying as a company from Santa Fe to come out and haul all that stuff off. I've contacted Sandoval County about it to see if they would be doing it. They may or may not, but they also gave me another company, Algodones, that does that. So if we don't go that route,
okay.
at least we're gonna bring the cost down one way or the other on that stuff.
Ruth?
Thank you.
How do you propose to present this to the community that your taxes are going up?
Just gonna let them know.
I think we just did.
Yeah,
I mean,
we did.
This is a budget
It's-
hearing, and you see how many people came. So the responsibility is for people.
Well, and I think we should look at putting like the PDF or something, tell.
Sure.
No,
We've told the story, and I think we should give the context.
And I think next week, aren't we having an additional meeting?
yeah, next week we have a meeting to pass.
It's the assembly
preliminary
meeting
budget.
next week.
Yeah.
6:30, remember, it's changed. It's 6:30
James,
next
that's all you have,
Thursday.
Dan?
No, I was just to say, if you print flyers, I think several of us have volunteered to stick them on the doors.
Oh, I didn't
I
hear that
think
before.
people
I'm glad to
need,
hear
I
that.
think they need to see a printed
Yeah.
So,
And we could give them some numbers and some reference and get all that.
and I would want to volunteer to walk around town, stick them on doors.
Because I was
I
gonna
have
go
to carry my weapon in case I get shot, but
I was gonna go through all the
Don't shoot
math,
the
and the
messenger.
more
And
I
my
did
badge.
that, I was gonna go through all the math, but the more I did it, I said, dude, there's gonna be eyes rolling in the back of their heads.
Yeah, I know.
Because it's this, compared to that, you know.
having done what you all are doing before, I know how well it's received if they don't have a printed notice.
Well,
It just
yeah,
doesn't work.
It's true, I wish we could get more people to come out to meetings like this and listen to it, because you stick a piece, even, and I'm not saying it's a more productive vote, you put the paper on the door, they don't understand what all the drivers are, and that's why we changed the format. Instead of just going through the numbers, we needed to have an open discussion about what's driving this, what's driving the things that we're doing. It's the income decreases, it's where the expenses are coming from. And it's hard to
Unfortunately, most
communicate that
people
in
don't
the
care.
flyer, I know.
They don't, I think that though, if you're more proactive, a lot of people don't want to come to these meetings. They don't like them. They used to be fighting or they don't have time.
Oh, we need some of that every now and then.
But
There's no
when,
flood
I
bill.
can guarantee you, when the taxes go up, everyone's gonna be up in arms. And
Oh, yeah.
to be proactive, I think you should say, this is the new budget that you have come up with for our community, and I think they have a right to know whether they
Oh,
come to the
absolutely.
meetings or not.
No, I agree.
think that, not a complicated thing, you don't send them something like this, but
We can do something more summarized.
summarized and say,
Well,
if you have questions, come see us, but this is what it is. It doesn't come as a surprise. They know
Yeah,
that you're
understood.
working on this.
And we could do a better job of, we could summarize it and put it in there with them.
Let them know it's.
Try and keep it in
this is,
context. I just hate saying, this is it, because nobody's gonna understand it, nobody's gonna understand why we're doing it.
Well, you put it in terms that they do understand. I mean, they are not as knowledgeable as you are.
Well,
They don't have
maybe you
expertise.
just add
So
a
you dumb
sheet
it
to them.
down so that they understand what
So,
it benefits, what
so
this
Ruth,
money's
what would
going
you
for.
think, what would you think if we just added a couple of sheets to this?
Something like this would be fine, and just be bullets,
Yeah, I mean, just
And
add a
you have
couple of
to
sheets
put
that have like bullet points.
office supplies, this and that, you put the main things and say, these are where your taxes
Exactly.
are going.
Yeah.
You call the fire department, they get a certain percent. And
Yeah.
just 2 or 3 things where it hits them,
Yeah,
where either their wallet or their safety or something, and say,
right.
this is where your taxes are going and this is what we have decided. You've done your part, and part of your part is to inform the community.
We can do a summary sheet.
But I think that would at least ease some people's minds that you guys are looking out for us.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
David?
Hey, just a quick comment about what you're talking about now. I think you need to really you need to have direct connection with the residents. Putting, budget on the counter here doesn't really go very far. And that should have been provided before the meeting. That's just put something together, something very simple, a 1-page, something simple that highlights what you're trying to do, like put this philosophy and then say, here's some issues that directly affect the residents. That should be sent to residents, I think, directly. I'd recommend that. Do it through Nextdoor, but also do a mailer or do a pamphlet that's either mailed directly to people or have people walk around and put it on people's doors. And then what I would suggest too on the Nextdoor is put the same thing, but put all the gore details behind it. Do a simple PDF that says, here's what we're doing, here's the budget if you really want to look at the details. But the key is inform the residents of the matters that directly affect them.
Sure.
None of these, don't put excessive numbers, just say taxes we think are going to have to go up because of these reasons. Don't say they're going to go up by 10%, 20%, whatever, just say they're going to go up.
No, you're right.
And so that's
And using
my
a percentage of the
suggestion.
number we're at makes it look horrible.
Well,
If you
David,
know what I mean, if you're at 50 cents and you go 5 cents, that's one thing, 10%. But when you're at 17 and actually 19, if you play the game, you go to 23, now you're talking 25, 30%.
Sure, I understand.
Small base makes that number look horrible when people freak, not understanding they're talking
But at
20
least
a
let-
year.
you know what, Dave,
But
you're
let
Well, you
people
can
know,
also
let
just
people
say
know
the average
directly
house, the average
the
value,
key
the-
features.
Did you say that or did you say that?
10,000.
Yeah, was it you, Linda, or did you read?
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Yeah, I
just
think
take
I
the
wrote that
average
down, the average,
Assessment, and here's how it'll affect the
Yeah.
average assessment.
and I've got that on my list, thank you.
And that way people have something, actual numbers to look at, because not everyone is a fiscal whiz.
And explain too what the services are that those taxes support. I think that's important.
Well, that's a good point. That's actually the reason when we switched format from just going through the numbers to something like this. But we probably could take this and put an executive summary in the front of it and do exactly what you're saying. It's.
Yeah, because different
that's
people
good.
respond to different avenues of communication.
Yeah.
And that'll always be the case.
Absolutely.
Whether you're a town, a city, a huge metropolis, some people respond to visual and some need something in the mail or some,
I'll
on the
agree with
internet.
you. I'm living proof that one size does not fit all.
Yeah, lots of channels.
We've had for so many years a complaint of the, and I know this, I've come to the meetings so much, and people do not come. It's been a complaint of the assembly, well, people don't come, they aren't interested. They are interested, they voted for you.
Yeah.
And if they can't come to you for whatever reason, you have to make the effort, we're coming to you.
Sure.
And
Absolutely.
we are going to make sure that you're aware or you have the opportunity to find out.
Oh,
I feel
absolutely.
a door-to-door campaign coming on.
Well, Ruth, you're right. And when I've said I'd like to see more people here, it wasn't that I felt people don't care. I just would like to see more people here because the discussion we're having is a very healthy discussion.
Serve booze.
We all have our budget.
You'll get all sorts of, you'll
Maybe
get all
it
sorts
could
of.
be BYOB.
Well, yeah.
We don't, it's not in the
They don't
budget.
care. You'll get all sorts of opinions.
And if we build bridges too,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that have abdicated due to past history.
You're right.
And they hide in their houses because they don't want to have anything to do with what was going on before.
And I
Yeah, but
understand
they
that,
bitch about what doesn't get
And
done.
they bitch about what doesn't get done.
but I understand their thought process.
Sure. So,
But that's like a bridge building
oh,
process.
absolutely. Well, the outreach or the booths?
But
Yeah, I'll
The outreach or
just
the
You
booths?
see what you do, you send out the newsletter with a coupon on the bottom and say, sign this if you read this, and we're having a free drawing at the next meeting.
Okay. So next one should be
I like
budget
that.
review, 2 drink minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything
Go out
else?
and Say whatever the hell you want.
Second.
Seconded, we are adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
thank you.
I do have a question.
I did your-
Yeah, okay. Well,